What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by no co-host. Have to do an emergency solo live reaction right here to the New York Giants re-signing Darius Slayton, the veteran wide receiver who's been with the team for the last 6 years, who a lot of Giants fans have mixed opinions of. There are some who really like him and are happy with this deal, and there are some who are kind of outraged by it. And I'm going to try and give you guys my level-headed, objective take, trying to look at it from both sides of the fence here and try and give you my analysis on it. But for the immediate reaction, I'll just say this. I do lean more positively. I think I've been pretty outspoken on the channel in recent weeks and months, honestly, that I like Darius Slayton. I think he's a good player, and he's just been trapped in a bad environment and situation for several years now. I think that he's always played well on the rare instances where he's gotten good quarterback play, but for the most part, he hasn't gotten any good quarterback play throughout his career. And unfortunately, I think that's held him back, as it has much of the New York Giants offense. But then again, I will also kind of argue the other side, which is the fact that Slayton is not a WR2 upgrade for this offense like we were hoping for, right? The New York Giants kind of made a promise to fix this offense after another disastrous season in 2024. We thought they were going to enter this offseason, maybe shop in the top of the market and bring in a legitimate upgrade. Unfortunately, though, if you look at this wide receiver market, there's really not a lot of talent out there. Like we've been saying, okay, since Darius Slayton's probably going to leave, maybe we go sign a DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is in his 30s. He's well past his prime. In terms of players who were in their prime, Darius Slayton was one of the top options on the wide receiver market. This is actually a big win for the New York Giants in order to sign one of the top receivers available in free agency. However, I will say the price tag is what seems to be the point of contention for most Giants fans. But I also want to contextualize that. The Giants signed Slayton to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Now, that's $12 million per season on average. And let me explain why I don't think that's an egregious number. A lot of Giants fans are really upset, saying they overpaid Darius Slayton. I think, reminder, guys, we're living in a world now where Khalil Shakir is making over $13 million per season. We're living in a world. Let me take a look at some of these salaries. Diami Brown just signed a $10 million per season contract today. Tutu Atwell is making $10 million per season. So I think you look at players around the league. Mike Williams was playing on a $10 million deal last year. Slayton is better than these guys. I know that he didn't have the best season this past year. None of the wide receivers should have had their best season. That should never be Malik Neighbors' best season because he had actual legitimate practice squad players throwing him the football throughout the past season. I think back on that 2023 campaign where Slayton went for 770 yards, that was not that long ago. That was only one season removed from where we are now, that Tyrod Taylor was chucking that ball deep and Slayton was making some big-time plays down the stretch of what was, yes, a lost season. However, he did demonstrate when the ball is on time, when the ball is accurate, when the ball is being thrown downfield, he still can be a pretty quality and serviceable playmaker. And that's what I think he is, a quality, serviceable playmaker. And I think a lot of fans just don't understand the price tag for a serviceable playmaker has gone up. In recent years, it's gone to pretty extreme lengths. I mean, guys like Gabe Davis makes $13 million per season. I am shocked. Gabe Davis, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, is not a better player than Darius Slayton. I'm shocked that Darius Slayton didn't push to get more than Gabe Davis did on the free agency market. You've got guys like Darnell Mooney, who's been good in the past. But Josh Palmer, a player that the Giants were interested in earlier today, I think going back to Slayton was their pivot. It sounds like they wanted to sign Josh Palmer, but he signed with the Bills for a $12 million per year contract. And because of how similar Palmer and Slayton are, both in playing style, impact, locker room capabilities, I would actually give an edge to Slayton just because we know what he's done for this locker room, which has been overwhelmingly positive. But all of these things, all of these factors, production especially, Darius Slayton is arguably the better player in his career than Josh Palmer, and they're making the same amount. So, I think Giants fans are going to look at this and just think the guy can't catch a ball. He drops everything. It depends on which source you look at, because last season, he only dropped 4 passes according to Pro Football Reference. Now, that's Pro Football Reference, and Pro Football Focus, I think, has him at 7, but those are subjective stats. That is something that's left open to interpretation. For example, let's say that a quarterback throws a wildly inaccurate ball that Slayton has to dive out and reach out for, and it hits his hands. But he never really had a good chance of catching it anyway, and the fact that he even got his hands on it should have been a plus. Well, PFF might have called that a drop, and PFR maybe did not call that a drop. So it depends on how you interpret these drops. But for me personally, I think 4 drops in a season, legitimate drops in a season, is pretty normal. I don't think that Slayton's drops problem is as extreme as people make it out to be. Just me personally. And that's how I feel about it. Yeah, of course, I would like him to be more sure-handed, but you have to view him from this frame of reference. This is one of the best wide receiver 3s in the league. That's what Darius Slayton is. He is not a wide receiver 2. When you look at wide receiver 2s in the NFL, you're trying to look for a DK Metcalf plus Tyler Lockett. Funny enough, they both just moved on from the Seahawks, but you get my point. Now it's DK Metcalf and George Pickens. That one of those guys is wide receiver 2. You really want 2 WR1s on a team. You want a 1A, 1B. Obviously, the Bengals are the prime example of that. But of course, you've got the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But do you know how much you have to spend for a legitimate WR2 that's a 1B level player? Yeah, Malik Nabers is our WR1. We're going to keep building around him, and that's great. Slayton is not a WR2. He is a WR3, and he just got WR3 money. This is where the market is nowadays. That's my take on it. I know a lot of you are going to disagree, and that's totally fine. And I understand the drops have been a problem. He's not a very versatile player. He's pretty much just an outside guy who catches downfield passes. He provides a decent amount in terms of yards after the catch ability, but he's not exactly a weapon or a playmaker with the ball in his hands. I understand all these things. He's not an underneath receiving threat. He really is just a field stretching vertical threat. And I actually think the biggest impact that this has on the Giants roster, there's 2. One hidden one that I'll get to in a second. But first and foremost, Jalen Hyatt might be on the trade block. This does not bode well for the Giants' confidence to develop Jalen Hyatt and his talent going forward. I think that there's legitimate cause for concern here in terms of how long he's going to be on this roster now that Slayton is being extended. In fact, I believe at the end of the season, Jalen Hyatt said that he needed to have a conversation with management and with the coaching staff to find out what his future with the team is before he decided whether or not he still wanted to be with the Giants. That was Hyatt saying that now that Slayton's coming back, I have to assume he would like to explore other possible opportunities where he could maybe start on a different team, although I don't know which team is giving Jalen Hyatt a starting job. But that's neither here nor there. We're going back to Darius Slayton. The other factor of this that I think is a very underrated talking point that probably not enough people realize. Well, there was that podcast that Darius Slayton appeared on, the Pat Leonard's podcast last month, that I thought was very interesting. And this is why I thought Darius Slayton leaving the Giants was a foregone conclusion. He had some very interesting quotes in there where he pretty much talked about how much he hates losing, how he's done with it, how yes, he wants to get paid for sure, but he also really wants to win. And if he felt as though the Giants quarterback room wasn't going to be upgraded and they didn't have a winning formula in place, he would not re-sign there. He pretty much, paraphrasing, said that to Pat Leonard. Well, now he just re-signed here. So what's that tell you? Well, it tells me that there might be some more news on the way tonight for the New York Giants. I have to imagine that they spoke with Darius Slayton and they told him, we're confident that we're going to land either A, B, or C at the quarterback position, and we're going to go all in on that quarterback, and we want you, Darius Slayton, to be a part of that. That's my reading of this situation. I actually think this is kind of foreshadowing a bigger deal for a quarterback coming in the next several hours or tomorrow morning, sometime very soon in the next 24 hours at the least. So we know that figuring out the quarterback position is priority number 1 for the Giants, and they need to go ahead and do that. But I do think that Slayton signing back with the team means that they have some sort of a plan in place that they feel confident enough in to divulge to Slayton and get him to resign here. Now, once again, going back to the other side of the fence where maybe I'm a little bit more negative on this and maybe more conflicted on the Slayton signing, I do have to say, for an offense that ranked 31st overall in total points, or points per game, rather, they have done very little, shockingly little, to actually bring in reinforcements for this offense. I understand that they feel as though they're a quarterback away from being competitive on the offensive side of the ball. I personally don't feel that way, and I haven't ever really felt that way. I think that they do need more talent on the offensive line. They do need more talent in this receiving room. They could use an upgrade at tight end, even though they have a promising young rookie. That shouldn't prevent you from adding more talent to the position. All of those positions need more talent. Yes, a quarterback can step in and elevate your roster and make a lot of players play better. And I think that was the logic behind them trying to trade for Matthew Stafford. However, one of the reasons that we also on this channel argued against trading for Matthew Stafford is the number of holes that the Giants have on this roster. I don't think necessarily that Aaron Rodgers steps in here and elevates Darius Slayton to be a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. So therefore, maybe you could argue that he shouldn't have been re-signed because he doesn't have that ceiling with or without a legitimate starting quarterback. There's only so much that quarterback can do for you. So I do think it's very strange how the Giants have not really placed an emphasis and level of importance on adding more playmaking talent to this team just yet. But again, just yet, because it's only Monday and there are more opportunities. There is the draft in April where maybe, who knows, maybe they draft a receiver and a running back and a tight end in that draft class. And then it changes the entire narrative of the Giants' attempt to reinforce the offense. But I do have to say I have a level of concern just because of how bad the Giants' offense was last year with Darius Slayton and everybody that's returning, and they haven't brought in any new faces to try and give that offense any more juice. But again, we know that they're making a run for quarterback. We'll see which quarterback that is. Sounds like they're having a little bit of a tough time finding that quarterback. Perhaps by the time this video gets uploaded, you guys already know who the quarterback is, and I just don't. I'm not privy to this information at 7:50 p.m. on Monday night. But maybe by the time you guys see it, you'll know. But that's just kind of part of my working theory here, but also part of my criticism of this deal. But generally speaking, I am positive on this deal. I think that Slayton is a good player, a fine player. He's not great, guys. He's not an 1,000-yard receiver, and he's probably never going to be unless something drastic happens to this offense. I understand that, and I understand that you guys wanted them to sign something greater and really strive for further greatness at this wide receiver position, but this market was really thin, and this is the going price now for a wide receiver 3/2 level player. And honestly, I think the Giants got a fair market value deal here with Darius Slayton, and that's why I'm totally fine with it. He's a good leader in the locker room. He's a consistent and reliable player in terms of his year-to-year production. Yes, drops have been a problem for him in the past, but so has quarterback play. So I think all of those factors considered, I feel fine with this deal. I'm not overwhelmingly excited about it. I'm definitely not overwhelmingly upset about it either. I'm not outraged. I think this is just a fine deal, and Giants fans, we need to just have some cooler heads prevail here and just say, okay, this is okay. Let's see what the next move is before I can fully judge the painting without seeing the full picture, essentially. So again, I feel fine with this, but yes, guys, I know a lot of you are frustrated. A lot of you might be excited. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Make sure you go ahead, leave us 5 stars if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.